Welcome to another edition of the 1% Better podcast with your host, Rob O'Donoghue.
Hello there. Welcome to this week's 1% Better podcast episode interview. Lovely to have you along. Just before we start talking about it, last week's episode with Siobhan Murray, all about burnout and resilience and overwhelm, dealing with all of those and building the resilience piece, was and is doing very well. Lots of people checking it out, lots of people giving some feedback on it. Siobhan was very kind with her time. She has a book out, The Burnout Solution. Check out the episode if you haven't. As always, there's stuff you can take out of it that you can implement. So check that one out. This week's interview is one I've been looking forward to recording for a while. Probably due to the coronavirus, I was able to get this one done. If things had been normal, it might have been a lot harder, because it is with the Olympic qualified Longford swimmer Darragh Greene. Now, we're both from Longford, so that's the start and probably end of the comparisons between us, or the things that we have in common. Whereas I'm doing a podcast about Darragh. Darragh is preparing for the Tokyo Olympics. Unfortunately, they're not happening this year, but as he says himself, with a positive mindset, he thinks next year maybe an even better opportunity for him to compete. Darragh is one of a very small club, I think of 3 people, as we talk about at the start, of Longford Olympians. We're very thin on the ground there, so that in itself is a huge achievement. He's the Irish record holder, first guy to break 60 seconds for the 100 metre breaststroke, and it was great to chat with him a few weeks ago. He is a very down-to-earth guy, very confident in his own ability. As you'll hear, he's made a lot of sacrifices. He's a late bloomer. He sets goals that he tends to destroy very quickly, as has been the case over the last few years since he really went all in with the swimming and has started to make huge strides forward. And that's another reason why another year before the Olympics might work very well in his favour. It was great to get him onto the podcast, and as I said, from Longford, it's always great to talk to people from my hometown, and I look forward to following and tracking Darragh over the next year as we build up to the Tokyo Olympics in 2021. Check it out. I hope you enjoy it. Before we get into the interview, as always, if you're new to the show, thanks for checking this one out. Check out robofthegreen.ie, where all the episodes are, or any of the podcast apps that you might listen to, Apple, Spotify, Google. Click subscribe on those. You will get all the episodes when they come down. And if you enjoy this one or have any feedback, drop me an email, rob@robofthegreen.ie. Tell a friend. That's the kind of stuff I hope you might do to help the show expand and get more folks checking it out. That always helps. One last thing, in the next week or so, I hope to be putting out the first 6 episodes of the Emotional Intelligence series called Me, Myself and EI. The 6 that will go out cover the foundations of what is emotional intelligence. We do an interview on the self with Dr. Zelda de Blasi, and a couple of other episodes that focus purely on self-awareness, lots of why, how and what that is all about, and another interview with a gentleman called John Broderick on emotional intelligence assessments, how you do self-assessments and the value from them. Lots to come in that, but that's for the next couple of weeks. This one is all about Olympian from Longford, Darragh Greene. Enjoy the show and take care. Hey folks, welcome to another 1% Better episode, and this one, it's been a while since I interviewed somebody from Longford. Being from Longford myself, it's a rare occasion I get to talk to folks from home, but delighted to interview and talk with a Longford Olympian, Darragh Greene, or to be Olympian in the near future. Darragh Greene, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Rob, thanks for having me.
So I'm going to ask you a kind of a sport-related question first that wasn't on any of the ones I sent over to put you on the spot, right? We're going to talk about the Olympics now, obviously 2021, and as I was doing a bit of research, I Googled to see how many people from Longford have been Olympians. So you're in a unique club. I could only find 2 others. Do you know who they are?
Right Lane.
That's one.
And not sure on the other one.
You'll never forget it after this. I remember him. His name is Derek Burnett, and he was a shooter. He was a sport shooter, I think is the sport. The trap or something, I think is the sport.
Wow. When was that?
It was in the 2000s, 2000 and I think he was in 2 or 3 of the Olympics, and it was in the kind of the shooting events. So, and I do remember at the time thinking that was quite interesting. I think he might be from like Cliff or somewhere just outside or in and around the county. But you're part of that trial. I don't know of anyone else. I couldn't see any obvious names popping up, but a great club to be in, a unique club. I'm excited to hearing about how you're getting there. And obviously, speaking of which, right? So we're recording this on, I think it's the 14th of April. In 3 months' time, you should have been, I suppose, getting on a plane and heading over to Tokyo. How have you adjusted? How have you adapted to the change in date and everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks, months, or suppose, as we led into this kind of crisis we're dealing with?
Yeah, so it was kind of mad last, 2.5 weeks. Everything was pretty much flipped on its head. I was in hard training and I was just at the start of my preparation phase coming into Olympic trials, as of the whole country was getting ready and to prepare ourselves for, it was supposed to be on the first week of April, and we were supposed to be going into our prep phase, and it was that Tuesday evening we were told that was the last session for the foreseeable future that we were supposed to be doing. So yeah, it's back home now. I've a bit of equipment with me, so I've brought a few weights down with me. I was able to get Coral Leisure Centre in the Mall have lend us a few of their equipment, which has helped me out a lot. Stationary bike, which I'm on every day, or I try to go for a run. That would be my aerobic side, and then I'd either do strength and conditioning, a core session, which we as a team usually do, and I usually have mobility sessions with the physio scheduled in during the week. Also on Zoom calls to nutritionists as well. So yeah, it's a bit of a change to being up on the sports campus.
I can imagine, yeah. And as you were, so the trials that you were preparing for was in, you said early April, or planned to be in early April. You've obviously qualified already. So what was the incentive in those then? Was it just the best time possible, just kind of going through the whole cycle? Yeah,
so I was the only Irish swimmer to pre-validate myself. That's what they're calling pre-validation, is when you go to time. I did it at World Championships in South Korea last summer. And at the Olympic trials, I had to go a softer time. So it was 1% off my the FINA A time, or the Olympic qualification time, just to prove that I'm still fit and ready to keep going. While the rest of the guys had to try and hit the FINA A time, which is the standard for the Olympics.
Okay. But there was no question, obviously, even if you turned up and your time was very slow compared to the rest, you were still in, right? There was no kind of rolling back.
Yeah, that's what I was going. Yeah, I had the first one foot in the door kind of thing, and it was just really just confirming it again then with the rest of the guys, hopefully, especially with the relays and that as well.
And what's the typical, I suppose, expectation from the Olympic swimming team? How many would they be hoping to get in for any games? Is there a target for this one, for example?
Yeah, they set out standards or targets for each kind of cycle, Olympic cycle. The NPD, or the National Performance Director, does. So we were hoping to get, I think it was around 8, which would have been a big team, because 2 relays and then a few individuals as well within that. So, 8 would have been a huge team, because I think the most Ireland's ever had really in the last 2 Olympics anyways was around 3 to 4. But in Rio, it was only 3 swimmers, so 1 diver. So.
Right, very good. Okay, so we'll definitely come back to maybe the training and the prep, because I'm interested in even where tapering off would come into all of that. But the obvious question, I suppose, is you're coming from Longford, played a lot of different sports when you were growing up, from what I've read. Why swimming? What was the draw towards that out of all?
I get asked the question a lot, and it's more as I think about it. I've done, as you said, every sport in the game kind of thing, from Gaelic with my local parish Clongitch to playing for soccer with Newtown Forbes. Yeah, I think it was around transition or my third year in school. I broke my leg, and swimming was obviously the first thing I could really get back into. And you definitely take things for granted when something like that happens to you. Then you miss it a lot. So I definitely kind of rekindled or found like a huge interest in swimming again, as it was the first and only thing. And I decided into my transition year then to just stick with it. So not take anything else back up. And yeah, so up my training a lot more and said I'd just give it a go. And yeah, so as I'd taken the other distractions away, straight away, my time started improving and stuff. So.
Yeah. So you didn't have any designs to go down the route of goalkeeper like your dad? No, he was.
No,
he didn't.
Even though I did play in goals, but at the same time, I didn't really go down that route.
Okay, and he didn't put any undue pressure on you. Was he one of the influencers who was kind of influencing you as you were coming up, and especially when you started to focus in on swimming? Who was kind of there to guide you, mentor you, kind of bring you along?
With my career so far, I found that like I'm definitely a late bloomer in my sport. So it's more as I progressed through my career, there are different people along my journey that has definitely had a big impact in or mentored me towards which way I want to go, kind of thing. And from when I started up in Dublin, it was with kind of my first coach, which I trained up there, to Donald O'Neill. He was one of the guys in UCD that used to coach us, and he went to every swimming championship there is, bar the Olympics. But he definitely seen something in me to kind of like he got me thinking, got my head going with I can actually go to the Olympics and go like that kind of route. So yeah, then jumps along the way, and then it came to the decision of moving out from UCD to the High Performance Centre in Dublin, and I'm training under a coach called Ben Hickson. So Ben, he was in Stirling University, and he's coached every medalist there is to coach, and it kind of stood out for me that I needed to go or take that next step in my career to improve. So I pretty much dropped everything and moved out to the National Sports Campus. And so I haven't really looked back since.
You mentioned the McCarthy gentleman there that gave you kind of some self-belief in a way and kind of started to plant ideas in your mind that you could go to the Olympics. And you also mentioned you were a late bloomer, so maybe the second part, was there a high level of discipline and focus when you were starting to get better? Do you think that it was lack of hard work, or what was it that was maybe holding you back?
It definitely was the sacrifices I really had to put in. So it was kind of like there was no such thing, or I just had to put everything aside, whether that was nights out to, obviously socialising was a big one, to even just starting to take notice of what I was eating, to even simple things from going to bed early and stuff. They all contribute to how well you train and your performance at the end of the day.
And did you start to notice, when you started making some of those tweaks or changes, gradual improvement, big improvements quickly?
It was more, I was kind of chipping at it all the way up through UCD. My times were kind of up and down, but they were nowhere near. I still got a bit off the FINA time or the Olympic time. And then once I moved out to the National Centre in Dublin, I moved out there in February 2 years ago, and so European trials were on that March, I think, and I had goals set out for the year. And what I wanted to hit, I wanted to get my first proper international, which was Europeans Championships in Glasgow. And the time I had to go was 61 seconds. Was it 61.3 or 61.2? And so that's the time I wanted to go. And then all of a sudden, within 10 weeks at the qualifiers, I dropped down to a time which was my first. I broke the Irish record out of nowhere, and all of a sudden I had to completely rechange my goals for the year because I already hit it within 10 weeks. So it was kind of one of those things that you do surprise yourself, but at the same time you realize, or you get that self-belief and confidence that you can do it. And so then kind of set out with my coach then that I wanted to be the first Irishman to break 60 seconds for a 100-meter breaststroke. And we did it at European Championships, went 59.92, which was also under the FINA A time as well. So that was like within my first year, I was just making huge jumps.
Yeah, definitely. That's obviously going to add to the confidence. When you set the goals, maybe talk to me a little bit about the process that you used to use maybe for setting those goals and how that changed when you started to work with the likes of Hickson and gone to the aquatic centre. What's the process like? How do you kind of walk through that?
So it definitely set out like each year. So World Championships are every 2 years and Europeans are every 2 years, and they're opposite, kind of fall opposite summers. And then obviously the Olympics is every 4, but sure, it's 5 this time. But yeah, you kind of set out that you want to be on them because they're all kind of steps towards the main one, which is the Olympics. So you kind of want to work on average where kind of wanted to get a semi-final, second swims, and the main one was definitely doing a PB or personal best. So if you're doing a PB, you're improving all the time, and it can get you a second swim to a final swim. So you kind of, instead of saying that you want to get a final, you don't know, nobody has control of what's going to actually make a top 8 final. But if you can PB and do that again and again, it's the look of the dice at the end of the day then, where you place.
And as you're setting that target for the Olympics, in the weeks and months beforehand, are you noticing typically gradual mini goals, mini targets that you're hitting along the way, and kind of measuring it? How does that work? And I suppose what are the tweaks or changes you might be going through to shave milliseconds off? Just interested in how that kind of works as you build up towards that.
Yeah, so definitely I'm training 6 days a week, and you do set out goals in that session, what you want to achieve, whether that's working on your underwaters to technique in the stroke itself, to your turn starts, or even just putting in a good hard key session and proper nailing that. Then there are little things, so you do get, so no session is pretty much just like, just paddle through and then on to the next one. Everything is kind of making the most out of it.
Right. So they're measuring nearly every session to see if you're hitting certain numbers every time, and yeah, that kind of puts its own pressure, I suppose, or serious focus, deliberate focus on every session. Very interesting. On the mental side of things, then, what has been eye-opening for you in the last 18 months as you've kind of worked through that in the aquatic centre, looking at it from a psychological perspective, some of the tools you use, visualization, that sort of stuff? What kind of has been useful there?
We do have access to sports psychologists and stuff, but it's kind of open to you whether if you need it or not. I don't personally use it. I'm pretty grounded. See, at the same time, I just when it comes to racing, that's the big thing I always enjoyed. And I say the bigger the opportunity or the event, the better. I kind of step up and perform kind of way. Just love the whole buzz about it. And I loved it at a younger age. I've always noticed it, even when I was in the local club in Longford, the only thing I wanted to do was swim breaststroke, and I just wanted to swim it fast the whole time and race whoever was there beside me kind of thing. But when it came to slowing down, doing drills, kind of proper concentration, I had no interest in it kind of way. So it was definitely that flip side of getting in the training and the mileage and stuff this time around to build up on it. Yeah, the kind of main one mentally will be kind of what I've learned is really just whatever comes along your way, which is a huge thing in swimming, how you deal with it best. And you have to be the person to deal with it the best, because everyone's going through it. Like, just the position that we're in now, people were obviously mixed between the Olympics being postponed and whatever, but sure, it is what it is. It's still going to happen. It's just a different date. You can either dwell on it, cry about it or whatever, or you can just see it as an opportunity to get better, because we have time now to work on things. It's like everything is completely slowed down. So then things that you want to work on, whether that's mobility, which you have more time to do, just extra things to get that in to make you better.
And when you're talking about different techniques or things, like, when would you introduce a new technique or something different into maybe the fundamentals of how you swim, and how long would it take to develop that, or do you go near those sort of things at all? Do you make any, like, if you, I suppose a bad comparison maybe, but a golfer with his swing, right, they would maybe make tweaks to that, or sometimes completely rebuild it to try and go that extra few yards, like Pádraig Harrington or whatever. With your stroke, does that stay very consistent? Do you tweak that? Do you change that? Is there, I suppose, anything that stands out around that?
Yeah, you would be kind of, as you get older and stuff, and the element of strength and conditioning, when that's added into it, you're obviously, your body's changing a lot, so you are getting used to that as well. So you're definitely a lot mindful of working on your technique, holding good technique, because the one thing you need to hold the best is, well, like, when it comes down to racing, it's the person at the end who slows down the least. And the thing that's going to help you with that is good technique, how you can hold the water and stuff. So yeah, it's we do a lot of technical sessions to drills. A
lot of video analysis, I'd imagine, as a result of that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Since I moved out to the centre, it's Ben Hickson has brought over a lot of sports science. So even from our whole training program, there's 12 of us on the team, and usually, like, from the clubs that I've been, like swimming in general in Ireland, it's like one coach, how many swimmers, and we're all doing one session. But the program that Ben brought over and who he works with is a man called Jan Albrecht. So at each starting block, so our blocks of training would be around 3 to 4 weeks. So 3 weeks on hard and 1 week off to recover and adapt. But yeah, so the test is pretty much based off lactate levels. So for you to test every month or so, we'd have to get in. And before we get in, we'd have to do a 400 meter swim, freestyle, and 400 meters breaststroke, a 250 meter breaststroke, 100 meter breaststroke, and then 100 all out. And before and after each of them swims, we get our lactate checked. So they prick us in the ear and they check our lactate levels, and they compare it with a time. And yeah, we send that off to Jan. He has an algorithm, so it sets up kind of your capacity levels, or pretty much the size of your engine and how it works, basically like a car, and how hard it needs to work. Some people in our training sessions only do 2 to 3K because that's all they need. But as it comes up to a competition, they'll be doing a lot more, while other people like myself, I'd have to be doing a lot more higher volume because of the kind of engine aerobic system I have, and just to kind of keep that level of intensity, or how my body works the best, kind of.
Very interesting. So there's a hell of a lot of science going into behind it there. I suppose like most sports nowadays, it's very fine margins. What about injuries? How do you deal with injuries? What sort of injuries do you typically pick up in the I don't know, would it change massively from the type of stroke you do or style you have? Does that have a different impacts on swimming?
Yeah, that was kind of the one big kind of enemy I had starting off as I got into doing more training and stuff. Obviously, I was getting sick a lot more and injured a lot more because obviously my body hasn't been used to it at all. So it's already been put into a hole. So I was very prone to injury or illness. So definitely the last, I've been in the centre, 3 years now. And it's only this year that we've actually got it right, as in it's like all our swimmers have set out goals with the coach, what their main objective is. And mine was just to be fit and healthy and get in, stay in the water as long as possible kind of way, which we kind of worked out was the best. So that even came into my sleep and nutrition side to everything else. So with injuries, main ones was my right knee, because breaststroke's such a weird kind of kick. It's very there's a lot of pressure goes through your knee, and shoulder injuries as well is a big one. So I definitely had to be on top of my core, because obviously swimming is a full body, and the one kind of foundation is your core. So we do a lot of core work, and my mobility was a big one as well in them certain positions, which isn't really human or natural for humans kind of.
Right. And what other core work, like would you be doing things like yoga and different sort of classes or sessions that obviously have nothing to do with swimming, but to try and keep the overall whole picture in focus?
Yeah, kind of, the reformers? So they're kind of Pilates machines.
Yes, the Pilates machines, yeah.
So they use with different springs. You're just using, getting into different positions on that machine.
You're a swimmer individually predominantly, right? But you're probably part of a team. Do you enjoy the team element? Do you enjoy the actual, just the ability that it's all on you when you're in competition? Interested to know a bit about your interests on that.
Yeah, we have a really good team set up in the centre, but at the same time, we're all fairly competitive between each other, which is good, keeps training interesting. When it comes down to as you say, swimming is a weird one. Kind of, you're individual, but at the same time, you need to go on a relay, so you have to wear them two hats with it. So you do have to step up for a team in that retrospect. At the same time, you're still have to look out for yourself and be that selfish kind of side comes in to look after your own individual swims as well.
But obviously, I guess even when you're swimming individually, you are part of a bigger team. Your coaches, your nutritionist, it's all part of the bigger package, I suppose, that you have to kind of keep focused on from that point of view. When you're swimming, how much time would you spend in the water on an average day or an average week?
Average day, we train for 2.5 hours in the morning and 2 to 2.5 hours in the evening. And from Monday, Tuesday, we have one session in the pool Wednesday and Thursday, 2 Friday and 1 Saturday. And then we have 3 key lifts throughout that week as well. Or gym lifts as well. So it's a intense week. Everything is revolved around the next session kind of way.
Do you find the actual act of swimming? I talked to a couple of almost Olympic swimmers before on the podcast, and it's like a meditation to them almost when they're going up and down. Do you kind of find yourself in a flow state? Do you forget everything? How do you kind of keep the mind focused?
It's kind of it can be like that meditation side, you say. At the same time, if you let yourself kind of wander off, your body's going to go into what it's comfortable with. So that might be bad technique, bad habits. So you really have to keep on like keep your mind focused, which is kind of a real test. Like we'd be given, like for our easy session, we'd be given a 5 kilometer straight swim, and yeah, like 5 kilometers is
the easy session,
yeah. So it's definitely like a character kind of building kind of exercise as well, to keep going and doing it properly, hitting your technique, hitting your walls for that continuous up and down for that 2 hours. Even though it's just like going for a walk for like an athletics person, it's just getting in that recovery, but at the same time it's working that mental side as well.
Yeah, no, like that is meditation, or mindfulness is effectively putting your focus on one thing for as long as you can, and wandering off is the brain just doing what it does. But what technique have you developed to kind of keep that focus for as long as you can, and how quickly you can notice that you've maybe just gone off a little bit? What do you count in your mind? Do you just count your strokes? What kind of keeps you focused?
Yeah, so you'd kind of break it up. So take a section by section. So we're doing a kilometer. We do that, say, with fins and paddles, and break it up as in we'll do 250 meters of that freestyle and then 50 meters of that back crawl. So it is broken up, so you can actually work on each increment and put your full focus into each one instead of looking at it as a huge 5K.
And you find that helps just kind of break it down. And do you feel that those 2 hours goes by very fast when you're in that kind of zone mode?
Yeah. So the more focus you put on, the time flies down. Like.
It strikes me that you don't probably suffer from nerves, or you wouldn't get too tense before competition. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah. Well, I like my time before. Like, I take my time. Like, between getting to the pool and stuff, I'd be there the earliest out of all my kind of teammates and stuff. Because I usually just take my time with everything else, so nothing's rushed or anything, so it's fairly calm.
Do you have like a pre-race ritual or routine that you kind of go through as you prepare for starting?
Yeah, so everything from routine wise, we have everything planned from when I get to the pool. So from when I get to the pool, I have it like all down on a list with our prep or strength and conditioning coach, because he's the last guy we see before the race. So I'd get there, say 2 hours before my race. I'd stretch out, roll out, and then it would be time for me to hop into the pool, warm up, get the feel of the water, get out, come back, caffeine, get my race suit on. I'm back 20 minutes before the call room. I do a race prep, so it's really just like explosive work, from band work, like band pulls, to med ball slams. Really get the heart going. I'm down in the call room 15 to 20 minutes before our race, which is when we have to be there. So yeah, it's really like we know exactly when, what we're doing, where we're supposed to be until we race, down to the minute.
And then obviously the race itself is just you executing the plan, the next step of that whole routine, really, isn't it? You don't probably think of it any differently.
Yeah.
You mentioned caffeine. So how is that something that you would be recommending, or is recommended? Is it just a preference that you have? What are the nutritions and what you take on board before a race? How different that is to training?
Caffeine is definitely recommended, especially during a long kind of like week of a competition, when you're like swimming, but it's getting that balance as well. How much is too much caffeine? Because then when you say get a semi-final swim that evening, obviously you're going to use a lot of caffeine, but like you mightn't be racing until 8 o'clock that evening, and so your race is done under a minute, and then you're expected to go back, eat and try and sleep, still wired on caffeine. So it is kind of getting that balance. And which you use like a lot of pre-season swims to kind of get that right, to try out new things. That's the main ones, and what you prefer, what you don't prefer. And and then you can kind of refine that for the biggest races then, or competitions.
When you say how much caffeine, is it like multiple cups? Is there just one?
You could either take from caffeine tablets, which is easy to take. I prefer kind of espressos, because you kind of get that like feel of you're actually drinking it and you have the taste of it or whatever. So that's what I prefer. And even like the nutrition side has it down to like there's so much science and in depth to it compared to like it's mad. Like we're told that if you take caffeine tablets, you take them 45 minutes out from your race, but if you take liquids, say a pre-workout or a coffee or something, that's 20 minutes out. So it's all down to
fine. And is that tweaked or kind of tuned to your body, or the general rule of thumb for people? Like, is it different for everybody from that point of view?
Yeah, 100% different for everyone compared to like I'm a regular coffee drinker. I'd have 2 coffees a day. Love it, compared to some of the lads absolutely like hate drinking coffee, so they'd rather have like a Red Bull or a Monster, and if they're going to gym or whatever. But they prefer caffeine tablets and say a pre-workout. Or
I remember reading one article you had said where you started to compete at international level, but others didn't know who you are, maybe that you were new to the scene. Did that give you any advantage? Was there kind of that surprise factor?
It was a huge advantage, because like you come there and like you have absolutely nothing to lose whatsoever. So that's like a huge, like, no pressure whatsoever kind of thing. All you have to do is like you're something at an international level, you're representing Ireland and you've nothing to lose. All you have to do is kind of do what you've trained for and try and hit your personal best, which will then set out the scenario for the rest of the whole race kind of thing, or your lineup for how you end up kind of thing. That's all you have to do.
On any given race, can anyone beat anyone? How much margin of or if somebody has a bad race, can somebody come out of nowhere? Just very interested in how tight it is at the very peak there, and what your experience is competing against some of the top in the world.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's really just especially kind of this era of breaststroke, it's very, very in depth, or there's a huge depth in it compared to other kind of races. Like there at World Championships, I placed 17th, and it's top 16 for the semi-final. But that was the first ever World Championships in history that a sub 60 swimmer didn't make it back, which is kind of never heard of. So that's the kind of depth. But at the same time, like, anyone is kind of beatable. Like, it's really down to you kind of focusing on, or like homing yourself in the situation of working on, like, obviously you're going to be in a different pool, different country, all this different like small factors take into place, like different food, you have a different bed, but like at the same time you're expected to step up and swim the best swim of your life in that situation. So it's really kind of taking all them things on to be able to do a job.
You said different cities, different pools, different beds. Is there a place where you've swam over the last few years that seems to be where you really perform better than anywhere else? Is there kind of a favoured venue?
The favourite venue would probably be the competition called Setacoli. It's in Rome, so it was in the 2009 World Championship pool outdoors. It's an absolute amazing pool, and everything is complete marble. And the whole kind of has a kind of lighting system all around it. And it's kind of a ridiculous place. And like the history around it as well is just like where bloody the 2009 World Championships were, where Michael Phelps were. It was the last year where the full body suits were able to be worn. So it was pretty cool.
And in that sort of venue, you feel it gives you that extra impetus to perform better, it gives you more of a spark, more just
Yeah, even like the Italian kind of culture is really big in swimming. The one place that really I'm looking forward to going is Budapest for European Championships, because swimming is number one, number two of ranked sports or top sports in Hungary. So they really take their swimming seriously. So I say the atmosphere there would be unbelievable.
And just on a normal yearly calendar, how many international events would you take part in? Like, is it like a Grand Prix type thing that they're in multiple countries all over the world over the course of a year?
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of set up for competitions as Grand Prix things. There's the Mare Nostrum circuit, so that's a big one in the summer of end of June, July. That takes place in Monaco, Cannes down south of France, and then in Barcelona. So you pretty much fly around, and it's one of those kind of big main competitions where all countries go to kind of put in some hard, fast swimming. Like.
And it's a full-time gig, right? This is what you do for a living right now. What's the projection looking forward? Next year, the Olympics. What sort of longevity do you see in this potentially for the next number of years?
I definitely hope to get another cycle in, Olympic cycle. Anyways, after this, it's kind of like it's really like everything starts over or resets after every Olympic cycle. So even when it comes to when Tokyo's finished, all of Somaliland's coaches and stuff, their contracts are finished at the end. So whether they're renewed or what setup it is, it's kind of laid out then coming in September, October, when you actually know what's happening in your sport itself and what you have access to, who you're coaching with, and et cetera, et cetera.
And obviously the next cycle will be a 3-year cycle though, right? Because the next Olympics, that 1 year has been shaved off. It's not moving a year out.
Yeah, it's one of those things that has to be talked about. Definitely will be an interesting kind of look at or to hear what their thought is, because obviously it's still going to land on Europeans or World Championships, and they're both two different governing bodies as well, so they're not going to give up their spot too easily. Right.
So it might actually potentially move out a year as well, or it might stay, you just don't know yet.
Yeah, really don't know, yeah.
Like, I know it's way down the road yet. You're, nearly 25 at the moment. You probably have another Olympics at least in. And I think from reading as well, it seems like the age of world-class swimmers is going up. Your career is elongating. Is that standard at the moment?
Yeah, so it seems to be coming in, especially if this thing called ISL kicks in. So it's the International Swimming League. Its first pilot year was there last year. And it's kind of like a team-based tournament. So athletes that get, say, recruit for teams, they get a sign fee and they get paid a wage kind of thing. Each kind of competition they represent their team at. And yeah, it's kind of main focus is giving back to the swimmers, and so swimmers can earn a living kind of off it between, like, say, before Christmas kind of way, which will be a huge game changer, because now with swimming it's only based off like we get carded, which is government funding, but it doesn't, like, it's keeps us going, but at the same time you can't really earn a living compared to what other, like, footballers are earning, not like even like a % compared to them. But yeah, so swimming really was big into, like, the main big top swimmers were pretty much relying on sponsorship and that kind of thing for kind of making a living off their sport. So hopefully this will kind of change that and help it along a lot more.
Inject a bit more, not only money into it, but I suppose just more interest, more TV coverage, bringing everything along from that perspective. Have you thought about life after swimming, what that holds, what you might like to pursue once the swimming career is over in probably 10 years time or so?
I have done, like, thoughts of it, and definitely like the kind of sports side that or sports science side that have experienced in myself in my own sport. So I definitely would like to explore that a bit more after it's all done, and definitely keep in that kind of link of sports or working in sport kind of thing.
Final one for next year. I know it's a long way away. What was your target for Tokyo this year, and how do you see that potentially changing for next year?
Tokyo was definitely a kind of where I wanted to like throw everything into it. So I wanted to get my best ever performance out of myself, and I knew if I did that and was able to do a lifetime best, I definitely will be able to kind of hopefully get a second swim, which would have been huge, semi-final. And it's kind of, as I said, if I'm able to recreate that each time, it's kind of like, obviously no one has no kind of call on who, like, as my coach says, no one goes to the Olympics or goes to the Olympics with a gold medal, and then you kind of have to work from that. You have to earn yourself to get there first of all, and then get through the rounds to get yourself in that position to be able to do something. Yeah,
well, look, I think it sounds like the self-belief is there, and if anything, you have another year to shave more time off the personal and lifetime best. Have you ever done like a personal best or lifetime best in training? Do you time it that much? Do you perform ever better in training than you actually do in competition?
No, because we're usually in very hard training. So only when it comes up to competition then are kind of tapering. So our intensity would kind of go up, but our mileage would come down to, the gym is the main factor why wouldn't be able to swim as fast as we could, because you'd have DOMs to you're working hard every day kind of thing. So it's only when that rest comes in, your body recovers and is able to perform at its best. So it's I don't know even how they're able to do it, but it's like tapering is one of those kind of things that you really have to get right. If you're a day or two out, that's a day or two before or after your race, which you're at your best. So it's really just kind of narrowing it down to getting yourself or like preparing yourself for being your best on the day kind of thing. So that's when your taper starts to end kind of thing.
And you probably play with that a good bit in the season building up to that. You might taper for an event and you kind of figure that out a bit better. Okay, very good. Look, Darragh, thanks again for taking the time out. It was very interesting to hear all about. I learned a lot about swimming and some of the habits and practices you've developed. Looking forward to keeping track of you over the next 12 months or so. This time next year, hopefully, we'll be a lot closer to the Olympics, and hopefully there's no other pandemic kind of thrown at us that'll throw us off. Hopefully there'll be a vaccine around by then. But best of luck in the coming months training. Keep at it. Great to have you on. Great that you're flying the flag from a Longford perspective as well as an Ireland perspective. So thanks again, and best of luck, Darragh.
No, thank you, Rob. Cheers for having us.
Great stuff. Thanks a million. Hey folks, thanks so much for listening to the show. If you enjoyed it, could you please consider helping me extend the reach of the podcast that a little bit further? You can do that in a number of ways. The number one way is to subscribe on your app of choice. This helps me with the chart ranking, leading to more folks stumbling across the podcast and checking it out. You could also repost it on your social media channels. Any of them would be great. And maybe even tell a friend in person or over the phone. Pick up the phone, give them a call and tell them about the 1% Better podcast. Tell them about this episode or one that you've heard in the past. Any will do. I would really appreciate it. In the last year, we set up a 1% Better Slack community, which you can join for free and interact with me and other members of the community and improve through holding each other accountable and sharing monthly challenges. It's a lot of fun. Check it out. I'm into season 4 of this incredible journey, and the more of these interviews and solo shows that I research, record and share, the better I believe that they get, and more loaded with actionable takeaways that you can learn from. I know I've learned so much from it so far, and it's always really, really fulfilling and rewarding when I hear from you on what you took from it. So do reach out, rob@robofthegreen.ie. And of everybody that listens, 90% listen and enjoy, but only around 10% actually take action, write down takeaways and put them into practice. I am convinced that if we can move that number a bit higher, the listeners will not only make steps forward towards their goals, but they will be more fulfilled and happy and better. Change doesn't happen overnight. It is hard, but it's all about taking the first step, whatever that is for you. You can absolutely do this. Make a plan, be deliberate, take action. Don't overreach. Start with those small incremental improvements, and over time you will see great progress. It's all in the pursuit of betterness. So again, thank you so much for listening. Good luck and stay safe.